can we have the chairs? So, 3 chairs. So we have for the next session. It's a couple of panelists had some last-minute engagements. So we will have another fireside chat instead of a panel discussion. And this fireside chat will be about tomorrow's banks here today, how new age technologies like GenAI and robotics are changing the face of Indian banking. And for that, I would like to call on stage Mr. Ashton D. Cruz, Executive Director, NatWest Markets. Can we have Ashton? Big round of applause. And we have Prasad, Prakash, Limaye, Head of Enterprise and Architecture and Technology Solutions Group, HDB Financial Services. We talked about in the first panel discussion about how some of the new technologies are sort of helping the banks enhance their customer service quotient. Now, let's focus on some technologies like GenAI and robotics. And I'll start with you, Ashton. How are banks leveraging, because GenAI is talked about everywhere now, how is GenAI helping banks enhance their operational efficiency? And that can come in different areas. Fraud detection obviously is one big area, more in terms of prediction and accordingly planning the risk modeling. So how is GenAI helping the banks?
Hello, and a very good afternoon to all the participating audience. First and foremost, let me thank Rajneesh and the APAC News Network team for inviting me and having me on this panel. I must also submit that the views expressed and opinions shared in this forum is made in my personal capacity and may or may not be subscribed by others, including my employer or any professional body I may be associated with. Okay, coming to your question. So when you spoke about technologies and you spoke about GenAI, I actually would like to extend it not just to GenAI, but AI in overall. So one of the key parameters and one of the key significant objectives that AI has been able to achieve, along with machine learning and other advanced technologies, is real-time processing and outputs. Okay, so when we say real-time processing, as the user is interacting with this platform, the system is be able to change content, provide recommendations, make offers based on the user's evolving preferences and perspectives that he shared. Having said that, AI per se is not just GenAI, but we also have something called conversational AI and we have got predictive AI as well. Okay, what is the basic difference between the three? Conversational AI is nothing but real-time communication that you have with the system in a way where the output could be either in the form of a text or in the form of speech. Predictive AI, on the other hand, is basically where we look at analyze patterns. And based on those patterns that we have in our data, in our inputs, we basically are able to provide forecasts and decisions that basically businesses can utilize. Gen AI, on the other hand, is when we need to develop content and something new. That's the difference, and AI as a whole is what we use within the BFSI space, especially with regards to banking. AI can be used in two forms, internal and external. When we say internal, we look at internal use of AI by using our own data sets to be able to look at market trends, to be able to look at customer behavior, to extend that to customer engagement that we have with our customer, and to be able to overall encapsulate the customer service and the customer experience that we have. Internally, on the other hand, we could use the same data sets that we have to be able to do some predictive analysis to help with data security, cyber security, to be able to look at fraud detection, fraud prevention, and to be able to do even some mundane administrative tasks, etc., that basically are repetitive in nature, that you don't need the human to be spending their time and effort on. Okay, some things, if I speaking from the department that I'm part of, some of the things could be early warning, credit risk monitoring. You could be doing enhanced underwriting of setups. You could be also doing critical credit assessments, etc. So these are some of the use cases that you have from an operational perspective. that you could use with AI overall, including all the various aspects of AI?
Okay. Thanks. Very nicely explained the three, if I may say, categories within AI and their use cases, and how that is sort of impacting the bank's business. So, Prasad, what I would like to understand is now, from a financial or institution perspective, what are the challenges, the key challenges, if you can briefly highlight, in deploying all these categories of AI deployment, and what's stopping the banks, or the bottlenecks banks are facing, or the financial institutions are facing when they are looking at deploying these type of technologies?
First of all, thank you, APAC, for having me over here. Now, talking about GenAI, if you ask me, my personal opinion, I'm quite bullish about GenAI. Uh, if we see the trend, especially the banking sector or the BFSI sector, you know, they are, if you go past 20 years, uh, we have an habit of, banking on technology. Okay. So, rewind 15 years back, when smartphones were introduced, touch screen phones were introduced, uh, and now, 15 years later, you see, you are able to do everything with respect to all kind of mobile banking stuff on your mobile. Uh, so having said that, when we talk about GenAI, it is important to understand that it's not a solution which is one size fit all kind of a solution. Uh, for typically for NBFCs, when we talk about NBFCs, typically for banks, the challenge which today we face is with respect to understanding what are the use cases, on which we are going to bank on. Today, if we see, to be very honest, me being into the technology side of the things, I end up getting almost 3 to 4 calls on a daily basis, wherein, everyone kinds of pitch the, GenAI kind of technology which they are going to bring in. When we dig down deep to understand where exactly, it is implemented, what are the use case on which, probably they are able to see a success ratio or a success ratio higher, there are very few. So that is where is the bigger challenge. If you see at the presentation, good to see all the trendy words to have, Gen AI, predictive analysis, self-learning capabilities. But it is important for us to understand what are the use cases wherein we can wire this particular Gen AI, and how it is going to provide, or how it is kind of, how it is going to bring value out of it. The second part, what I understand, that can be more of a challenge is, so today we talk about Gen AI being, so you have an option to leverage Gen AI at different domains, that can be, when it comes to BFSI, that can be customer service, that can be credit and policy, that can be operations. If you see the trend, customer service is kind of good to go, wherein all the use cases are more or less wired towards customer service, especially towards the conversational chats, especially towards, having a conversation with the customer, more like, more like a human is interacting. That becomes a good to go use case. But if you ask me being a credit head, can I leverage GenAI to take decisions or to take underwriting decisions? I'm sure that we are skeptical about it. If you ask me about the operations, am I ready for my operational data to be fed to GenAI so that it can take intelligent decisions, and basis that, say, a disbursement of loan can happen or a disbursement of policy for that matter can happen? We are always skeptical. Like, probably we'll always love to have a human touch point in between so that things doesn't go haywire.
Okay.
So having said that, there are challenges, but as I mentioned earlier, like, I'm quite a believer of technology, and I'm very bullish about this GenAI. That's it. So.
Okay, thanks. So the operational issue is one point you touched upon, and I'd like to base the next point around that. One big operational thing can be, do banks or financial institutions have the skilled workforce currently? Because we know, yes, banks are tech savvy, they have tech savvy workforce, but the technology front, it's moving very fast. So are there skilled workforce who can manage the use cases, that is, the use cases that are emanating out of GenAI, and to manage that successfully for banks, and at the same time, as Prasad mentioned rightly, a modicum of human element needs to remain there. So what are the challenges in terms of having the workforce with these skill sets?
Thanks for that question, Rajneesh. So I'll just stress upon some of the challenges that my panelist spoke about. Again, when we have talked about GenAI and we've talked about the benefits that come out of GenAI, we also need to know that GenAI is ultimately based on a data model, and it requires data for it to be operative and for it to run efficiently. And the quality of data is also very important and paramount to be able to give the efficiency on the outputs that come out of GenAI, or for that matter, any AI. So one of the challenges that we also face is in terms of their data quality, and that is very important to also acknowledge. Three is also in terms of, and this is which actually decides whether your AI implementation is successful or not, is to find the right use case. Okay, just because your competitor is doing it, just because someone else in industry is selling it, you don't necessarily need to use it. You need to see whether your business has that requirement, that need, and whether the customers that you service also has that need. And then if these two match, these are in sync, then that's when you gain success out of GenAI or AI for that matter. So those are the other two challenges that I had. The third challenge, and this is what I would have actually come upon, is in terms of the resources and the skill sets which is available in the market to be able to run these technologies. The short answer to your question is a no. Okay, so if you ask me if we have the skill sets available to be able to take and leverage on what AI has to offer, then the short answer is no. Why is it no? Is because technology is developing at a much rapid pace than we as industry and we as the educationalists are able to keep up with it. Secondly, and we need to be honest about it, the education system that we have in the country and in most parts of the world is not really equipped to be able to create ready outputs in terms of students who are able to start day one on the job. Okay, all we do in our education system is theory. We do not have the practical experience to start day one, hit the job or hit the road running. So the short answer is no. How do we tend to overcome that? Again, and there are only two ways to it. One is in a short-term measure, if there's an urgent need with the organization, we poach ready resources. There is no other way to it, and that's the harsh reality. We can only poach ready resources from competition, from industry, from market. On a long-term basis, though, we need to also encourage and reward and train our own resources internally. Okay, as a highly regulated industry, we usually have a few sets of mandatory trainings. We usually have a few sets of regulatory certifications, etc., career development programs that we need to cater to. Why not include this part of trainings and this sort of requirements into into the entire L&D model that we have? Okay, so create the resource, provide incentives and rewards for the person, for the individual to pick up something over and above his regular job, but try to create your resources, try to create the skill sets within the organization itself. That is important. Two, just not create it, try to retain those resources, because as I said, poaching is going to be always there. So you have attractive remuneration packages, you have staff incentive programs, you offer career development internally within the organization, and try to retain those resources.
Okay, thanks. That's an important suggestion and recommendation, I'd say. Prasad, taking his point on the data, yes, any predictive analysis or any analysis you do, whatever GenAI we talk about, the paramount thing is data. And the quality of data is often, there is ambiguity, there is an issue about security of that data, and the general quality of the data is often a little bit suspect. So how do financial institutions overcome that challenge? What would you recommend?
So when you talk about data, I agree with the panelist. Like, data is the stature of data is always a problem. And especially for a technology like GenAI, which typically dwells or is clearly dependent on data to make a context out of it, to do a self-learning out of it. It is important that the stature of data is maintained. But the good part is, we have this GenAI coming up or booming up as a technology in parallel to some technologies or in parallel to data lake, in parallel to warehouses, wherein what I understand, majority of banks or NBFCs for that matter, they have realized the importance of having data at one place, be it structured, be it unstructured, be it partial. They have started understanding that importance, and they have started building a warehouse or lake house kind of, or lake kind of a concept, wherein they are, or building a repository wherein they are kind of propagating that particular data. Now, do we have a good amount of data, and how to fine tune it? This is going to be a continuous exercise. You cannot have a kind of a solution wherein you plug in and you start getting good data out of it. I think this is going to be a continuous exercise wherein you end up understanding what kind of data is getting propagated. Does it make sense? Does the models, like in a typical GenAI kind of a construct, do the models which are dwelling or which are kind of working on the data set, are the model able to give any sense? And if we understand that the models, for whatever use cases I have created some models, but the underlying data, that there is a problem which needs to be fixed, it is going to be a kind of continuous exercise. Go understand where exactly is the problem, how I can fix it, how I can fine tune it, and get the things sorted out.
Okay, thanks. So basically, have a solution like a data lake or a repository kind of thing, but continual work on that has to be the model. So the last questions I'll put to both the panelists basically is on the regulatory mechanism. We know BFSI is one of the, or perhaps the most regulated sector, but a lot of these new gen technologies, be it GenAI, robotics or other things, these are happening very fast. So how are the regulatory mechanisms evolving to sort of to attribute to the challenges that are emanating out of these new technologies? How are things happening there?
Again, my personal perspective on this, but I think as a regulator, the central bank in India has been very proactive to be able to at least streamline the use of advanced technologies, be it towards digital innovation, be it towards digital transformation. They have been proactive. It is not so much a reactive step, but they have been pretty proactive in this. There have been guidelines that have been coming out frequently. Again, if I just take an example, not coming from the regulator, but more from the government and the state, is the DPDP Act. So to your recent question, when you talked about data and are we in control of the data, are we in control of the quality of the data, then the DPDP Act in a way forces you to be in control of all of that. Because unless you know what your data is, you don't know whether that data is personal, whether the data has got the consent, the approvals all in place. So just to connect the dots on that one, so the DPDP Act in a way is indirectly already telling you that you need to be in control and your data is to be of the optimum quality. Coming back to the regulator and the central bank or RBI for India and our regulator, they have been issuing guidelines, etc., on a regular basis. So they have been proactive. But as a financial institution, as a bank, as a player in the space, what do I need to look at is I need to be aware, and the most critical important part of it, I need to be transparent in terms of what I'm doing and why am I doing it. Okay, because BFSI ultimately is based on trust and service. We act as the custodians of someone else's wealth, someone else's investment, and we should never forget that fact. Okay, so we have to be transparent in terms of what we do and how we do it, communicate, collaborate with others, including the regulator, and coordinate.
Great. Yes, sir.
So I agree with the panelist that so while government, while regulator, they are very proactive when it comes to data security. There are obviously circulars around it. We come across kind of circulars in last 12 months. I think they are playing on front foot. There are a whole lot of circulars from government, from regulator, to ensure that data security is kind of the foremost priority for all the banks and NBFCs, or for the entire BFSI sector for that matter. So while they are proactive, what we have realized, or what I have realized is banks and NBFCs, they have also started taking it very seriously. They have started kind of building frameworks around the data security. There are teams which are being formed dedicatedly to understand the nuances, understand the nitty-gritties of DPDP, understand what kind of framework which needs to be implemented in a particular in an organization, to ensure that we are in line, or we are adhering to the circulars, the DPDP policy, which is not in effect, but obviously will come soon. So proactively, what I have realized is, all the banks and NBFCs have started taking these measures. And if we have this kind of frameworks, like instead of waiting for the act to come and then to run around to understand what can be done, rather if we go for some proactive approach wherein we have the framework ready, we know what needs to be done, what kind of policies needs to be enforced. We have clear DFDs defined, data flow, say diagrams or analysis defined, wherein we have clear control of our data, especially the entities data, where it is flowing, to what systems it is flowing, from where it is coming. If you have all those controls and nitty-gritties proactively taken up, then I'm sure that the newest technologies like GenAI, I don't see any challenges adopting more from a security or from a regulator standpoint.
Great. Thanks. With that, we'll conclude this fireside chat, and we'd like to felicitate both our panelists for their stellar role in technology deployment, and for felicitating them, I would again request Somnesh to come and stay. For Prasad, Prakash, Limaye, Head of Enterprise Architecture and Technology Solutions Group, HDB Financial Services.